Thank you, everybody. It's nice to see a nice packed house. Thank you, Denver, and thank you, DSR, for having us here today. I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Emily, and I am the Club Development Officer for the City of Bayswater and also the City of Swan. So I've got about 200 clubs that I look after in my region. So what do Club Development Officers do? Well, as it says up in the top corner there, we advocate the benefits of sport and recreation to the wider community. So my role on the ground basically help clubs to be the best club they can be, to make them really good places for the community to engage. Sport and recreation does in fact build stronger, healthier, happier and safer communities, and it's my role to work with clubs to ensure that they can do this. So what do clubs actually want? As a club development officer, there's a pretty common theme, and I get asked three main things from clubs. So three things that they really want more of. Does anyone want to hazard a guess as to what they are? Yes. More members, perfect. Number one, look at that. Anyone else? More resources, yep. Anyone else, last one? More people, yep. So you pretty much nailed it. More members, more volunteers, and more money. What a lot of clubs don't realise is that they can get all this through inclusion. So that sounds wonderful, but how exactly do we become inclusive and how do we get these benefits? I'll take you back to 2012 to a nice little event that we call Have a Go Day. So it started off with some fairly humble beginnings, but the main idea why it was created was because we wanted to connect people with a disability, people who were disconnected, people who were marginalised, and maybe just even new to the area or to the country with the rest of the Bayswater community. So in order to do this, we decided to use sport and recreation. As Denver mentioned before, it's a really great leveller. There's participation opportunities at every level, regardless of your age, regardless of your ability, and regardless of your background. So that's how Have a Go Day was born. We're using sport as a tool to bring people together all in one place. The event itself, it's basically like a whole heap of club come and try days, all in one spot. So if you're thinking maybe I'd like to try dragon boating, or maybe I'll check out a historical society while I'm there, you can do all of this in one place. There's heaps of stuff happening, and it's a really fun environment to do that. Basically, it's connecting people with what's happening in their local area. So over the past couple of years, since 2012, we've had 7 Have a Go Days, had over 4,000 attendees. And just to give you an idea, the first one started pretty small with about 80 people rocking up, and the one we had earlier this year had close to 1,000, so it was a really good turnout. We've had 65 clubs who have participated in inclusion training, and I'll touch on that a little bit later as well. But I think the big thing to emphasise is that we didn't want to create a disability exclusive event. So an event just for people with a disability to come and participate with other people with a disability. If we were going to create an event that was going to connect the Bayswater community, then it had to be representative of the Bayswater community. So that meant people of all ages, people of all abilities, and all backgrounds. And as you can see through some of these photos, which are a little bit small, there is a really big cross-section of people in the Bayswater community, and we wanted to connect them all. So let's just take a step back. Why did we start doing this in the first place? Well, there's a couple of reasons. Mainly in our strategic community plan, we had a couple of goals that we had to achieve, and these were creating connections. So connecting not only the residents to the sporting clubs, but also ourselves with the people in our community and other organisations that were around. Club development, of course, that's why I'm here. Making sure that our clubs had the capacity to welcome these people to be within their community. Equity as well was a really big one, making sure that everybody in our community, because it's such a diverse range of people, making sure they all had the same opportunities regardless of who they were. And sustainability as well. So I'm going to touch on that one a little bit more, because quite often we tend to run events without thinking long term, and we didn't want Have a Go Day to be, just chuck everybody in a room together and hope for the best, and then once that's over we forget about it until next year. So we did a number of things to make sure that the benefits from Have a Go Day continued on beyond the actual event. So we built the capacity of clubs and groups, working with them to say, hey, let's have a look. Who do you want to be as a club? Where do you want to go? What do you need? So if we're looking to get more junior members, okay, let's have a look at some of your policies and things that are in place and see how we can work with you to make sure these are all ready to go when the people come in the door. We help to create links between the community and our clubs and groups. So the Have a Go Day was a main focus of that. We mentored and trained our club leaders on inclusion, and for me this was the best part of the whole event. you get a lot of, I guess, fear and uncertainty around, people with a disability or people from different backgrounds, and clubs are unsure on how to handle it. If someone comes in their door, they don't want to offend people, they don't want to do or say the wrong thing. So the inclusion training really helped to break down those barriers for the clubs. And it was great to see the people, when they come in at the start and they're like, oh, I don't really know what I'm doing here, like how are we going to handle this? And then at the end they're going, right, I have some really good tools and some good information that I can take back to my club, and if someone with a disability comes to my club, excellent, we can welcome them, make them feel at home. We also had an event committee. So this was led by members of the community, and we had people from sporting clubs, just interested residents as part of this, professionals for disability service providers, and also some people that were involved with some of our programs. We didn't want it to be us as a local government saying, this is what you guys want, this is what you need. We wanted the community to tell us, this is what we want from our event, this is what we want to see on the day, this is what we want to have happen in our community, and got them involved in the process. We also have training and development of our own city staff. We've just, I think last week, we just had another disability inclusion training for our staff, so making sure that we're all up to date with it. And also created a step-by-step event guide. We had such success with this program, and I'm sure Denver can attest. He often gets people asking, we want what Bayswater has, how do we get that? So we created an event guide so other people can pick it up and take it and adapt it to their community. We're not selfish here, we want to share the joy. It's been really valuable for us, so we're happy to give that out. Council also funded beyond the initial funding period. The project was started with a grant from Disability Services Commission, but Council saw such value in it that they put their money where their mouth is and have since funded the program and the event from now on. Finally, Inclusion WA partnership commitment. We've worked with them from the beginning, and using their knowledge and resources and our local knowledge and resources together is a really powerful tool. So this is just a little quote. You'll find that in your handouts on the table as well, from a member of one of our tennis clubs who's participated not only in the event as part of her club, the Have a Go Day event, she's also been on the committee, and she's recently found volunteer and paid employment through being a part of this Have a Go Day. So she says, I believe the Have a Go Days were a huge success, and the winners were the City of Bayswater and all its participating community clubs. From my personal view, it certainly opened up my eyes with regard to people with disabilities and how these events can make them and their families feel like they can achieve anything in their lives. It was great to meet so many people and organisations that I'd never heard of before, and the Have a Go Days were a great exposure for our tennis club, and even better was the cost involved in participation was $0. So Have a Go Day is free for anyone to attend on the day, but it's also free for our clubs and groups to get involved. So it's a great way for them to come along and get their profile raised, and get their name out there. But we still thought something was missing. So we'd been doing this for a couple of years, and we sat down after the event, I think it was last year before, sat down with Denver and Kira from Inclusion WA and went, you know what, Have a Go Day is really good, but there's still some people out there that we're just not capturing. So there's some that are, they might come down to the day, but they're not really sure how to approach people and how to go that next step. So we thought, how could we ensure that the outcomes achieved from Have a Go Day were continued through the rest of the year? What if we could find a way to directly connect these individuals with those clubs and groups and those opportunities? So we sat down, we brainstormed, we applied for another grant, and Bayswater Connect was born. So this was like an add-on to Have a Go Day, and it worked in partnership with it. And what it aimed to do was to link these local residents with available opportunities in sport and recreation based on their skills and their wants and their needs. We did this in three main ways. So the first one was individual connections. So we employed a project officer, who was the wonderful Kira at the back here, and she worked with individuals to find out what their skills were, find out what their strengths were, and find out what they wanted to do. Then she worked with the clubs and groups to find out what opportunities were available and connected those so that these individuals had valued roles within those clubs. We had community open days, 29 open days with 12 community clubs, and this was a real range of clubs. So we had the YMCA open their doors, we had lacrosse, we had catch music, we had scouts as well, so real mix of things for people to get involved in. And as you can see, they were pretty well received, so over 1,100 participants attended those open days. We also had partnerships, which is obviously a very important part of any project. So connecting with our local organisations and other service providers to ensure we could find those people who wanted to be a part of those, have those valued roles in society. So Kira engaged with 151 people through this project and found them valued roles within our community. So a couple of other little stats, 34 clubs received direct mentoring from the project officer, and there was also 5 disability inclusion sessions. And what I find really interesting is that over half of these clubs and groups had never participated in any form of social inclusion training. The best part about that as well is that those that had also had something really valuable to offer in those sessions. So quite often when you come into disability inclusion sessions, clubs go, well, this is great, but how do I apply it in the real world? That's where these clubs that have been there and done that were really useful. So they would say, hey, you know what, we've done this before and this is how we managed it and this is the outcomes and it's fantastic. So both those new clubs and those former clubs that are still involved are all getting the benefit. Did it work? Well, yes, it did, in a nutshell. Individuals did find valued roles within our community. The training broke down barriers and increased positive perceptions of people with a disability within our community. So there wasn't that fear or that stigma going, oh, I'm not sure what I'm supposed to do when I meet someone with a disability. That was gone. Training and mentoring gave the clubs and groups, actual tools that they could use and practical examples of how they could, invite people into their clubs and groups and get them involved. And finally, the clubs and groups had an opportunity to engage with people with a disability. It wasn't just lip service. So it wasn't, here you go, here's all your information, and then they forget about it in 2 years' time when someone with a disability actually does come to their club. The Have a Go Day was right at the end of the project. So all of these clubs and groups that have worked towards that point, they then have the Have a Go Day and they can actually put their skills into practice and welcome these people to their clubs. A couple of little bits and pieces just before we go. So last season we had 15 players down to training, and this year with the help of Bayswater Connect we had over 45. Bayswater Lacrosse Club would love to continue our partnership with Bayswater Connect into the future and look forward to a successful 2017. So that speaks for itself. This one was a nice little addition that we found out. So WA Genealogical Society, one of their open days, Red Cross Australia came down and they've now worked a partnership together so that the Genealogical Society are helping Red Cross with new refugees that have come over to help them reconnect with their family. This one's particularly important. So I believe that the City of Bayswater's efforts to educate and support the community groups within its borders is truly positive and encouraging effort. It shows that Council actively cooperates and sees these services as an asset. And we really do. And probably for me as a club development officer, the thing that I've really noticed that has changed throughout this process is how much easier it is to deal with the clubs that have been involved with Have a Go Day and Bayswater Connect. They're so much more willing to partner with you, to help you, and anyone that's worked in clubland understands that there's a lot of volunteers and a lot of people are quite time poor, so sometimes it's a little tricky getting information or getting the clubs to get on board. But the clubs that have worked with us, we've got such a good relationship now that these things aren't really an issue. Finally, Bayswater Tennis Club have increased their revenue by hiring out a room to a conga instructor that they met at Have a Go Day. So they can add an extra class every week. The tennis club get a little bit of extra revenue and the community also get another way to participate. And lots of smiling faces as a result. So we'll just go back to the start. So what did clubs want? They wanted more members, they wanted more volunteers, and they wanted more money, basically. So this Have a Go Day project, combined with Bayswater Connect, we've seen local clubs, they've got more members through open days, through increasing their capacity to accept new members, and broadening their horizons while seeking new members. Clubs have also got more volunteers through increased membership, but also the associated networks of these new members. Fundraising opportunities have increased. They've got a wider network to get sponsors from. They've also got more grant funding opportunities and a larger exposure within the community of who they are and what they're doing for the community, meaning that sponsors are more likely to get involved. Finally, for the individuals, they've gained more open, skilled and welcoming community that embraces diversity and offers them ways to contribute in valued roles within society. Local government, it plays such a crucial role in ensuring that we have sustainable, connected and healthy communities, and long gone are the days where it's just roads, rates and rubbish. Assisting sport and rec clubs with inclusion, it ticks all the boxes for our community. The clubs benefit, the individuals benefit, and the local area just becomes a more vibrant place to live. So how do other local governments start on this journey? How do you get started in this? Speak to Inclusion WA. That's a good place to start. Speak to other service providers. Speak to your clubs and find out what challenges and opportunities they're facing and how you can work together. Speak to your community and find out, what do they want to happen in their community, and give them direction on and guidance on how to achieve that. Yes, it is more time consuming. Yes, it is more difficult, but the outcomes are more effective, they're more widespread, and they're much longer lasting when you do that. So like anything in government land, the success that we've had in Bayswater, it didn't happen overnight. It does take time, it does take investment, it does take a lot of partnership building and continuous community involvement. And I know that we hate in local government, and probably government in general, hearing the phrase, my rates pay your wages. But you know what, they're not wrong. It is our role in local government to serve our communities in the best way that we can. And projects like Have a Go Day and Bayswater Connect, they create environments much in the same way that nicely landscaped streets do. It looks nice to be in, but also feels really nice to be in. So I'll finish up with just a sweet little cartoon. And it just goes to show that everything has something of value to offer in the community, but sometimes it just takes that initial connection to find it, which is where us, as local government, we can play a really major role in facilitating those connections. Thank you.
So I'm Carly, I'm the club manager at Rolling Stone Gymnastics Club. I've been a committee volunteer there for 4 years now. I've got 3 children at the club, 10, 8 and 6, and they've all been training there since they were toddlers. So I've had a lot to do with the club over a lot of years, and now I'm a club manager.
And I'm Kerry, I'm the coaching director. I've been a coach at the club for around 10 years. I joined in 1996 as a gymnast, and I've taken on the coaching director role this year, so I've been in it for about 6 months. And today, I have a coach, Janae, with us, and she grew up in the club as well, and is now a coach, and she coaches almost every day of the week at the club. We're really lucky to have her. That's us, and we have a short introduction video for you about our club. Yeah.
Okay, so from that you can see we've got a pretty tight-knit, fun, friendly family culture at Rolling Stone Gymnastics Club. We all love our club. It's many things to many people, and we always considered ourselves quite successful on many levels until back in August last year we had what can honestly only be described as a very ugly incident at our club. A child came to trial one of our classes, and we considered his experience to be completely unacceptable. This child, Riley, became overwhelmed with the gymnastics environment, the structure of the class. He got distressed and reacted aggressively. A coach was injured. A number of other children, coaches and parents present at the time were very frightened. Then, due to a breakdown in communications and a lack of awareness, Riley was told by the head coach at the time, because of his behaviour, there was no place for him. Rightfully so, Riley's parents were extremely upset. They contacted the club, and the committee conducted an investigation, and the committee liaised with the family regarding how we could all move forward in a positive way from this unfortunate incident. This is Riley. Riley has autism. He's a gorgeous boy, and it's because of Riley that we realised we needed to make drastic changes if we wanted to be the club we thought we were, the club that includes everyone. As a club, we realised we'd failed Riley, his family, all of our members and our entire community.
We wanted to create an option for children with barriers to participation. This was our pilot ASD class. This class was specifically for kids with a diagnosis of autism spectrum disorder. Riley was our first member. That was a success for us. To find a coach, we had to look within our club, and we were really lucky that we found the perfect coach. Janae did not hesitate to put her hand up, and she has totally embraced this class. She has complete ownership of the class and has grown remarkably. We asked Janae for her thoughts on coaching this class, and she said that it's made her a better coach. She now has an awareness of the greater participation needs of her students, and she's learned a lot about herself and has definitely grown as a person. I can witness that as well. Janae has full ownership of the program with herself and our other coach, Hannah. She knows that the purpose of the class is to engage the children, to help them learn their basic skills to participate in gymnastics, to build on their skills, to help them grow confidence, and to help them pursue a future in our gymnastics club. The initial pilot opened up to children aged 6 to 10, and they all had a diagnosis of ASD. We run the class on a Saturday afternoon. There are no classes before or after, so the gym's nice and quiet for them. We had 4 participants and 2 coaches, Janae and Hannah.
So we felt right on track with this class, but we still needed a bit of direction to develop the program further. So through David Thomason, our Club Development Officer at City of Armidale, he's here today. We secured some mentoring from Denver and Kira at Inclusions WA. Their knowledge and support has been invaluable to our club. It's really opened our eyes to the bigger picture, what being inclusive really means. First up, they challenged us to question if our ASD class was participation or inclusion. And we immediately realised that creating a separate class for these kids actually wasn't enough. We needed to provide an opportunity to be included in all aspects of Rolling Stone Gymnastics Club. We really wanted them to be meaningful members of our club. This led to the beginnings of our Pathways program, concept that basically makes our class a stepping stone along a progression highway to reach all other programs within the club. Word's gotten around. We've had inquiries from more families of children with developmental conditions wanting to join RGC. Unfortunately, due to financial restrictions, we're currently unable to accommodate all of these families. We're working on integrating them in the club one by one, and we're also sourcing funding and grant options as we speak. So far, we've managed to enrol 2 more children, have moved into our Pathways program. These children were unable to access gymnastics at any other club. The class now includes 6 children with a range of diagnoses of developmental and psychological disorders, including autism spectrum disorder, ADHD, ADD, ODD, epilepsy, disorder of the corpus callosum, sensory processing disorder, anxiety and selective mutism. Our pathway program's already proving successful, as some of these children have already begun joining in other club activities and events.
With this new way of thinking about our programs and our pathways, we have decided that next year we're going to apply our pathways program to all our classes, regardless of ability. We're overhauling the entire timetable and expanding our services to offer more diverse range of classes, including recreational gymnastics, circus school, to name a few. This will allow us to offer greater opportunities for our members, for all children of all abilities. From this, our coaches will be able to access better coaching opportunities, including training for a better understanding of developmental disorders. They can learn communication and management strategies for these athletes, and they'll learn valuable life skills, as we've seen with Janae.
But we're not happy stopping there. We've got a few other inclusions-based visions for our club to really make it accessible for everyone. In an attempt to engage other low participation groups, we're about to start establishing relationships with local schools, offering our Team Gym program. This is a vibrant, exciting, fast combination of gym, dance and acro as an appealing stream of gymnastics for a variety of ages. We're also looking into senior sessions during school hours, concluding with morning or afternoon tea. Can make use of our gym while it's otherwise not utilised, as well as physical benefits. These seniors in our community will have a platform to make social connections. We've been closely following Gymnastics Victoria, keeping an eye on their inclusions pathways. We're getting lots of ideas from them that we could introduce at our club as well. They have a great program where they invite therapists into their gym space to work with people with disabilities. We'd love to do something like that to ensure all people, regardless of their ability level and background, to feel at home at RGC. We're even going to the extent of working within the club and developing strategies to encourage greater parent involvement. We're setting up a cafe, offering volunteer reward system. Because sporting clubs really go around volunteers. There's posters all over the place that say that. So being involved and being relied upon can give parents a real sense of belonging. We're feeling a little like pioneers of sorts, applying this kind of thinking to a sporting club, and as far as we're aware, we're the first WA-based gym club to offer such initiatives. So if we got more opportunities as we have today to present our story, we'd really like to inspire other clubs and associations to make positive changes too. It hasn't been hard. The rewards far outweigh the work we've been putting in, and we now have more members, more volunteers, a better community profile and access to a heap of financial and promotional opportunities. So that's been our story of our inclusions journey so far, where we've been and where we're heading. We're really proud of ourselves for all that we've achieved in just a short time, but our proudest moment so far would have to have been what happened a couple of weeks ago. And Riley joined all of our other Rolling Stone Gymnastics athletes out on our competition floor. So he's really come a long way. It was our club championships a couple of weeks ago, and he got out there and joined in. We've got 30 years behind us as a club, but as Kiri mentioned the other day, we actually feel like we're a brand new club starting all over again.
Yeah. The potential for our club is just in its infancy. We're definitely willing to grow, and we now know that we are more than gymnastics. If you have any questions, Janae's going to pass out some information, so you can follow us on all our social media accounts, please. And if you have any questions, please don't hesitate.
Thank you, Denver, and thank you for having me here today. So I'm from the Associated Catholic Colleges, and the Associated Catholic Colleges, we were established in 1937, and at present we service 77 West Australian schools, majority in the metro area, or around 55,000 students. So these are your independent and Catholic schools. My role within the Associated Catholic Colleges has been twofold. So when I started back in 2011, I was the administration officer, and also part of my portfolio was an inclusion officer. As the administration officer, we're only a three-person office. So a three-person office looking after 77 schools is quite busy, considering I was part-time, but part-time's never part-time. So we run all the inter-school sporting events for these students. So to put that in perspective, just an example, we have 10 inter-school swimming carnivals at HBF Stadium. We have 10 athletics carnivals, divisional athletics carnivals at the track, and we have a massive cross-country carnival which we cater for over 4,500 students. And that's just a small portion of what we do throughout the year, plus all the inter-school sports. Fortunately, a part of my portfolio, as I mentioned, I was the inclusion officer. So when I started, they said, well, right, you're involved with running the Students with Disabilities program. That consisted of 7 participation-only based activities. So it was very separate to what we were doing with the mainstream students or the other students, but it ran parallel to what they were doing. So if our mainstream students had a swimming carnival, our inclusive students had their own little swimming carnival. So it was very participation based. What we have now is we have 10 activities throughout the year, but these are all integrated. The only activity that's not really integrated is 10-pin bowling. And we leave that as a participation only, a social activity for our inclusive students. But everything else is integrated, and by that I mean our mainstream students from the schools that attend our events, they all come as well. So their peers come and they support our events, which is just fantastic. The extra events that we've added on to those 7 were 2 sports days, which we do in conjunction with Inclusion WA, which we'll talk about. These photos up here, which are fantastic. And I also introduced a beach carnival. And for most people, you think a beach carnival with students with disabilities, they all look at you as if to say, what are you doing? Well, we did it, and we did it really, really well. We had our first beach carnival at the start of the year 3 years ago, and we could not get these students out of the water. They loved it. They were resilient, as you could imagine. They were in the water. We now have an Ironman or Ironwoman event for every student that attends. We cater for our students with disabilities in wheelchairs, and the day is just fantastic. So we get full support from a local surf club. We get full support from Notre Dame students who give up their time as 4th year students to attend, and we also have mainstream students that run the activities throughout the day for these students. So it's totally integrated, and it's a fantastic day. Within our 77 schools, as I mentioned, there's a vast range of disabilities that we felt that we needed to cater, acknowledge and provide for this. They're like every other student, and they're competitive, they're compassionate, they show empathy, they're enthusiastic, and sport and recreation is a really great format and platform for these students to really excel. And we wanted to provide pathways for these students, particularly into club, state and national level, and that was something that I noticed early on, that there was nothing that we were providing as an association for these students. We have some schools that are fantastic at delivering this naturally, and it's very important, as you can imagine, you want to give schools the idea that this is their idea, that they're doing it and they're running the whole program. We have schools such as Sacred Heart who are outstanding. I know I was just speaking to someone who came from Sacred Heart. They really integrate their students. So their students aren't in a unit where they're separate. They integrate with their peers, they're part of it, they do public speaking in front of their peers, they tell the school what their disability is, and they are fully functional in amongst that school community and out of that school community, and they are brilliant at it. We have other schools such as St Mark's. They don't have any students with disabilities, but they put their hand up every year to attend our swimming carnival. And one of the beautiful things I heard this year is they send some Year 9 students, and they get there and they're hands-on, they're with the students, they're either in the water, they're swimming with them, they're running novelty events, or they're marshalling students. And some Year 10s who attended the year before went and spoke to these Year 9 students and said to them off their own bat, said, do you know what, that was the best day out of our schooling year last year. And for them to say that, as mainstream students saying that this was their best day, it truly shows how integrating your students is a really, really important part of what we do in the school environment, and making it a really important part of the schools developing the whole student as well. So that was a couple of examples of some schools that really do this well. We also were fortunate at the end of last year to be awarded the part of the disability grant which comes out, and the reason we were awarded that is because, like I said, we were so passionate about integrating these students and ways in which we can do it. So we kind of extended ourselves from a 3-person office to a 4-person office, and now my job is solely looking after this inclusion unit, which is really important. So part of this disability grant allows us now to then extend our unit. We're going to run 4 competitive sporting carnivals, and that will be with sports that have pathways into club, into state, international and to international, because we've got some outstanding students in amongst our students with disabilities. It's great to see some clubs here that we are doing these competitive sports with. We've done one with netball, we're doing soccer, we're doing lawn bowls, and we're also going to be doing cricket as part of this disability grant, and hopefully extending that as an ongoing movement throughout the next few years. We're going to enhance our 2 inclusive sports days, which I'll talk a little bit further about. We want to provide our students with disabilities an opportunity to be classified. So be classified in amongst their disability. We have students and parents that have no idea what classification is. We're trying to not only educate them, but get their students involved and their children involved into our carnivals. And that, like I said, we have 10 athletics carnivals, we have 10 swimming carnivals. So we want those students swimming, running with our mainstream students as part of their inter-school athletics or swimming team. And that is really important. We run our rules according to FINA for swimming, IAAF for athletics, so they can compete as part of their disability. They can also be rewarded because their results will go straight into that database, and then they can move on to state international straight away. So there's a pathway that we want them to be able to be a part of. We also want our schools to take on some inclusion competition. We have 7 sub-associations, so around the metro area we have schools that are in a certain regional area and they compete against each other each week, so year 7s through to upper school to year 12s. We want them to run an inclusion unit where every week the inclusion students all get up and go and compete against each other. But we're going to let the schools decide how they want to do that, whether they want it totally inclusive or whether they want to integrate their team. So for example, for netball would be maybe 2 mainstream students and 5 inclusion students, and they go and compete out with the rest of the school during the week. So making it a really good school environment, but they're being a part of it with their peers as well. The benefits we found with integration is they get to participate along with their mainstream peers. So when we do have events like the sports days, the schools ask the students, bring your friend, so they bring a mainstream friend and they be a part of that day with them, which is really important. They can compete competitively in sports that have the pathways, and that's really important. So they're in a school community environment where they're protected at the moment, but when they leave school, we want to have them be able to go and do things on their own, be a part of a community, be a part of a club, and there's the pathways there for them to continue on. They develop more skills, so not only are they doing these basic skills which they've been doing every time they come to school, but that we're allowing them now to develop more complex skills. So they're developing not only their complex physical skills, but they're being in a more diverse social environment, and that's continuing on, which is really important. And be a really valued member of the wider school community. So for, like I said, for examples of Sacred Heart and the other schools, they're really looked after in those schools as just one of the other students, and they're part of that school community, which is really important, and is great to see that continue to develop. In terms of our partnership with Associated Catholic Colleges, I met Denver back in 2011 when I sort of first started and was running an athletics carnival, and we said, right, what can we do together? There's something that we really want to do. Our idea was we wanted to develop a sports day where the students all came and participated in a sports day. This has developed over the time. I can explain the first time that we decided to put this on, and we ran it at John 23rd College. It's John 23rd College here. If anyone's ever been there, John 23rd College has this massive play area, and the grass is impeccable. So it's great for students to come and have a go. So our first day that we had, it was in May. Denver and I got really excited. We had all our students there. I think we had 12 schools. We had our state sporting bodies there all ready to get underway, and the skies opened and it poured down from the moment we stepped out in the activities. But the students didn't move. They were out there to have a great day. They were so resilient. They stayed out there for pretty much the whole day, didn't they, Denver? And continued on with their activities. The teachers all scurried away, but the students stayed there and remained. So again, like I said, it's so important that we are aware of these students and how resilient they are. Just like any other student, they want to be a part of it. They want to be competitive, and they want to enjoy sport and rec like everyone else does. So that was our first day. Since then, we've developed. We now have 2 sports days for these students because one's not enough. We have one in May and we have one in October. Fortunately, we're pretty good with the weather most times when we have it during these times, but we've now developed this day into something that's outstanding. We have probably, I think, around 350 students with disabilities that attend each day that come along. On top of that, they also bring friends, so they bring mainstream students, so the mainstream students help the flow of these sports, help the educators who are there from the state sporting associations run the activity, so it keeps them busy the whole time. This one ought to be reserved here in end of April this year. There was over 12 different sports and activities. Again, like I said, 350 students, mainstream students. We had corporate volunteers that help out, and it's a fantastic feel-good day with these students, and they absolutely love it, and it's really developed. What has been fantastic with this is it's ongoing, and Inclusion WA has introduced what's called a recreation advice. So when these students leave, each school that attended that day, whatever school and region they were from, they receive this recreation advice that shows them all the clubs, the contact details of those people for those sports that they were experiencing that day. So immediately they're going home to show their mums and dads what we did, and this is what I want to do, and their contacts are there in their community straight away. So there is that ongoing commitment and the ongoing be able to continue on with those activities, which I think is crucial for these students. It's also been good for teachers. In our units we have some teachers phys ed based, which is great because they take this on straight away and love it, but then we also have teachers that haven't got a phys ed background, so they're very much wanting to protect their students. So it's been a great opener for them and realising what is out there for these students and letting their parents know what is out there for them as well. So onwards and upwards from here, we want to continue with this. Fortunately, I said with this disability grant, it allows me then to develop our program even further. We have schools from the PSA, private boys, schools from IGSA, private girls, who don't run anything like this for their students. They like to keep their students mainstream, but they attend our events because we offer these activities and these openings for these students that they don't normally do. So this is something that's quite exclusive for us, but we are very, very proud of it. Another thing that we do as well, which is great, we've got all our school administrators on board, so I meet with the principals quite often, I meet with the administration of these schools quite often, and they are all for this. Like I said, if you give it to them and show it as their idea, they'll run with it. Same with our teachers. Our teachers are inundated with lots of work as it is, but if we say, look, we're doing the work for you, just give us your bodies, we'll create it, we'll expand it, they're all for it. So hopefully over the next few years this continues to go on. Our sports days will continue to go on. We'll get more of our students into competitive sport pathways and getting them out involved in our sport. So that's it. Thank you.
I guess I better start off, just to introduce myself a little bit. My name is Ben Popham. I've got a twin brother and a little sister. She's 10 now, so they both don't have disabilities. They're able-bodied, but you know, I think we get along just fine. So, but yeah, I'll be talking in like a swimming context, but hopefully you can sort of apply it to your different sports or departments for government people. But I better. Swimming does a lot for me. It's kind of hard to pinpoint exactly like the main benefit or why I do it in particular, but I'll start off by listing a few. So I personally believe that the squad environment, the tight-knit group, sort of 10, 20 people, it's like the best environment I've sort of ever been in and probably will continue to be in. Just because we strive for excellence on such a regular basis, and like you go through so much. You know, my coach, he's a real hard man. He flogs us up and down a pool quite a bit. But you know, when you finish that set, you thought you never finish, and it's a long 2-hour session. You sort of get like a real bonding, and I guess differences like personality or physical in my case, they just evaporate, I guess, and you can just really get along and just see on the same plane. But I guess in sort of a school context or an everyday context, everyone can relate to achieving in the sporting arena. I think most people have sort of had their way a little bit with sport, and they can relate to sort of their peak in their career. And so to see someone doing well, it instantly sort of levels the playing field a little bit, and it gets rid of this thing I find quite a lot where I have to prove myself, I guess, as an equal. But now that I have swimming, and if people have heard of my sort of achievements in the swimming atmosphere, I guess they already respect me. They already sort of realize that I'm no different to them, I guess. But we'll start with clubs, and I'll hopefully go through club, school, and council. We'll start with clubs. So I've been at quite a lot of clubs, and I've trialled at many more. So I've got quite a range of experience with what works and what doesn't. I started off with Superfins, so at 7, and Superfins trains out of HBF. I don't know what it's called now. It was called Challenge Stadium, but yeah, they're sort of a disability-only club, and they focus on like the friendship and the fitness side of things. So they're very yeah, recreational, and I recommend sort of anyone who's sort of getting into swimming, or you know anyone who's sort of carrying a disability, like physical, intellectual, just sort of anything, and they want to get into sport, particularly swimming. I recommend going there first, because they've done absolute wonders for me. Their coaching staff, they're incredible, and the atmosphere that they bring, it's just one of like amazement, I guess. And you get so many stories, meet so many new people, and like the amount of stuff they've done for me is incredible. But I started, I think my first nationals was 11. When I was 11, I'm 16 now. I've been going to age and open nationals ever since. And then, so I first went to my first nationals with Superfins in that sort of fitness environment, and I realized that I kind of needed to step up, and in order to do that, I needed to go mainstream. And I was lucky enough to join Leisure Park Lasers. They were, I think, Balgapool. You know, it was a big step up. I think I went from going twice a week to 5 times a week, sort of hour sessions to hour and a half, like 3Ks maybe to session to up straight to 5. So it was a big step up, but in that it sort of showed me what it was like, and I guess it opened up to me like that there is little awareness in most coaches in the sort of swimming WA atmosphere, or just in swimming in WA, about how to cater for these individuals that have sort of they need their sets adapting. They need their training times vary, so in that way you need sort of separate lanes to have them go up and down without bothering the able-bods. But my first coach, Stacey Scott, her sister is a Paralympian, so I was very fortunate in the fact that she was already sort of well versed in the art of sort of catering for an MC, multi-class, I guess tag. But yeah, she was just really, really helpful. And then her sister was training with our squad at the time, but she's now in the AIS and doing like fantastic. Oh no, she actually moved to Melbourne, I lie. But yeah, she's still doing fantastic. She went to Rio. So the kids there were already used to sort of making that slight change to allow a slightly slower individual to go up and down, even though her achievement was probably higher than all the rest. They sort of recognized that they might be lapping a couple more people in the session, and I think that was really helpful for me in that I still had to sort of change quite a lot, because I was moving completely different from like fitness perspective to a sort of more elite thing. So I was changing completely where I was going, but in that way it was sort of I guess we kind of limit the change and made it an easier transition. And then I sort of went there, trained for 2 years. The club unfortunately shut down, so I had to look for more. And I was trialing at a club. I won't name them for this, yeah. But you know, the coach there didn't really know how to handle me. And it was a very different contrast to the club that I've just been at. And so there was another person with a disability in that club, and he kind of just chucked me in the same lane as him and just got me to do the same set as him, even though I was faster. Probably I had more of a competitive mindset, but he didn't know how to integrate properly, and for that I kind of suffered in the week that I trialled with them, in that I was excluded from the pack, I guess, and it kind of gave me this stigma for the rest of the kids training alongside me, but in a different squad, that I was sort of in it for the fitness and participation. And I guess like they're fundamental things, but I mean, it just sort of categorized me, and so I found it really, really hard to sort of break that stigma and get along with the guys there. I mean, now that I've sort of changed clubs and I'm really happy where I am. The coaches constantly look, Ben, what can I do to make this set easier? How can we push you? How can we do all these things to make like just help you excel and integrate? And I think that's really, really important in sort of bringing more people into the sport in the first place. Knowing that there's sort of MC specialist coaches that are willing to adapt their sets and help their MC guys sort of go into the level that they need to be, sort of like-minded, not like-paced. But I guess I'll move on to local governments and stuff. Participation in swimming, I don't know about the other sports, for people with disability at the competitive level. I also guess that the participation level is really, really quite low. We've got, in an average swimming WA meet, we've probably got 3 male competitors and probably 1 or 2 females. So I sort of think we need to sort of get out and do what the City of Bayswater do and get out and like go to these early intervention centres and go to PMH and sort of advertise what the benefits of swimming and the competitive pathway and all these things, and then hopefully advertise the system of classification and how great it is and how no matter your disability you're sort of racing on a level field. I know Gina mentioned that a lot of parents with kids with disabilities don't know what classification is, and I think that's a massive hurdle that we need to get over. Make it a widespread known fact that we can sort of we can compete in a level environment that that can facilitate for like any level of achievement, I guess. And so that's where I think we need to just get the grassroots. We need to sort of advertise quite a lot that swimming or any sport is just a great avenue into success or participation or friendship. And eliteness, I guess, in my case. But that you can do so many great things with sport, and it can grow you as a person like significantly, like it has in my case. I guess I'll go into school and what school has done for me now. I go to St. Stephen's Duncraig. They are fantastic with what they allow me to do. I mean, I was like, maybe I gave 1 week notice. We were like, look, I'm doing a speech here. Like, it's gonna be great. I'm missing out on double maths right now, so look, I'm over the moon. But they're like, look, I don't think they really pondered on that much, a lot. They just thought, do your thing. And I guess that's what happens with swimming in general. I'll be like, oh, look, I've got a really hard, with my teachers, I'll be like, oh, I've got a really hard week of training, like, coach is pushing me the max, I can't turn homework around in 2 days. So they'll sort of tell the teachers, they'll be like, look, Ben can't really do much right now because he's smashed and he's spending most of his time sleeping. But I think communication is a must with all schools, between the athlete and the principal or teachers or whatever it may be. I think it's a must, and it really makes the ride a lot smoother. I mean, being a sort of teenage athlete, it isn't easy. I'm doing, well, on an average week, I'm probably doing 14 to 16 hours in the pool. It's a lot of work, and on top of that, assignments, study, exams, it starts to add up if you don't have that clean communication sort of pathway thing. And I think if we can sort of branch out, this doesn't really, this applies to all people, all athletes, but particularly with just elite athletes. And I guess it's really important for schools to just make sure that they understand the current athletes' training load, I guess, and that they're well aware of the circumstances that they're currently in. So say, I don't know, Bob, he's going to Queensland in 2 weeks for an interstate competition. So any assignments that his classes will have, he might have to have early, hand in a bit later, or get a bit earlier, hand in earlier even. I think this is really important to adapt the curriculum to your athletes' needs, and I can't stress that enough, and how grateful I am to St. Stephen's for being so adaptable and sort of catering for me almost perfectly, I'd say. I just want to sort of talk about a little bit about sort of disadvantages for WA athletes. Particularly in my case, most of the competition for me is over east, so Sydney, Brisbane, Melbourne, those sorts of places, and so for that, travel costs start to add up quite quickly. I'll go to Queensland States in December. I'll go to National Age, which is the week before National Opens, and I'll go to both. So back and forth accommodation, they start to really add up, and I think the financial costs for any athlete, I guess, whether or not they have a disability or not, it's really important that they're sort of well supported so that they can achieve no matter their financial situation at home. I've spoken to a lot of people who have made national times but just can't afford to go because of the cost it takes to go from Perth to Sydney, and that's like just quite devastating, to be honest. If you reach that such an acute point in your career, and reaching nationals is no easy feat, and then you're held back by sort of financial restraints. I guess life is unfair a little bit, but like that's just like devastating. So yeah, I just sort of wrap up with my future ambitions, I guess. I hope to get rid of, just as swimming as a sport, I hope to get rid of the stigma of MC athletes and them being more difficult and sort of not rewarding, and that they're just an extra burden for a squad. I sort of hope to make sure that all the coaches in swimming are just kind of well educated on how different ways to include both like intellectually and physically disabled athletes, and that they sort of feel at home, they feel with the squad, they're well integrated and part of the atmosphere that swimming creates, and it is a great one. And yeah, for my own sort of ambitions, I guess, onwards to Tokyo, I guess, yeah. But are we doing questions now, or are we going for later? Yeah. No worries.
Have you ever thought of going into a role as a coach or coach educator? So, like, as coaches, we are always needing to be educated in how to coach. But as of your view, do you think like you would be able to go into a like an association and maybe just
Yeah. No, I definitely think with all the clubs I've been to and sort of when I'm racing, I guess I come across as quite like a fun guy, and I've been told that at least. I promise. But I guess at each club I go to and each squad I'm with, I sort of constantly educating the coaches and the squad members how to deal with MCs, I guess. And the more, I've been to 3 or 4 clubs now, and all the squad members are now in different clubs, and they're sort of coming up to me at meets and stuff and sort of associating themselves with me. And then as a result, their sort of social group will come over and sort of ask what's like how things work. So I guess slowly, in at least a swimming context, I'm gradually sort of making MC athletes like a more accepted thing, like an alternative pathway to just success, I guess. And but it would definitely be easier if I had more people. I mean, it's definitely hard to do it as a sort of a one-man gig sort of thing. I've got friends who are trying to constantly educate the coaches, but with the numbers we have in the swimming community, I just don't think it's sort of viable to like try and educate everyone. So that's where I think we really need to push participation rates and make it a more accepted avenue. So yeah, but I definitely coaching for other coaches. I definitely think the way to go. But, yeah.
Hey, Ben, I reckon you're a bit of a crowd pleaser. Look, I think not only, Ben, you're a great advocate for your sport, but just for a great example of how we want young people in our community to grow up. And you're very driven, you've got a lot of desire, mate, and hey, wouldn't we want to see him in Tokyo Paralympics represent Australia, mate?
Cheers, guys.
Well done.